right. Well, happy
Paddy, welcome
Friday,
back.
Junior.
Yeah.
April 30th, 2026. Glad to be on, Bill. Um,
Yes. Lots been going on, man. I had just some weird, not weird, but I had some realizations on a couple of things around AI, and it's been an interesting week.
yeah, it has been. There's been things I've been seeing in the news, in the Twitter sphere, social media news. Folks are commenting. A lot of intricate complaints among usage of the frontier models. Right, wrong, or indifferent. But I guess we'll get into that. But first, how are you doing, Bill? How goes life? How goes Atmosoft? I'd love to hear more about the team, what you're doing, what the team's
Yeah.
doing.
So Amazon's doing good. We're definitely making some inroads. I think the market is starting to show some signs of at least understanding where we pivoted to, and starting to see some interest in the things that we've been studying over the last 9 months. It's been a ride, man. Like, this has been one of the I've been doing this for 30 years. It's been one of the strangest shifts, and I know a lot of my peers. It's kind of seems to be half and half. Half are excited, kind of playing with it, and the other half are like, no. And it's just been a really interesting transition, and I'm hoping a lot of people don't make the same mistake of like, oh, this is just some like new type of framework, like a new version of React or a new version of JavaScript or some new version of .NET with some new advanced features. This is a game changing tool, and really take some time to really fully understand the value here. Every day I go in, I'm learning something new, and I'm like, I just the things I'm seeing, like even beyond agentic, right? Like I
So,
thought
Bill,
agentic was going to be the stopping point, but
talk to me about why this is different than React. Why, why is this not like something else launching, and why is this not just a hype cycle? What is the change for you? And I like to be hyper specific, right? I think that helps folks wrap their head around exactly this change and why they should adopt it, right? Because I think folks are still on the fence, which is a little wild to hear about in April 2026. Um, but there's still some laggards, there's still some luddites out there, and I think those are the folks um, who would be best served by the message you're saying. Because what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, at least in 2026 April, that um, almost near 100% of Silicon Valley startups are using AI, augmented development. If you're not, you're behind. There's a trend internally within big tech known as token maxing, which is another commentary I think we can comment get
yes.
into down deeper into this conversation. But let's speak to the luddites, the laggards, the folks that are just not accepting this change. I'd like for you to be hyper specific there.
Yeah, so I'd like to start by saying that going back and forth on this particular idea, but the idea that AI is going to take your job, I honestly at this point don't believe that is true, and what I'm starting to see is just the maximum the multiplier that I get just from using AI and working with AI. I can work on two, three, four projects at the same time. Multiple instances of Claude running, all doing different things, bouncing back and forth between tabs, and then basically kind of guiding the agent. It's like a virtual worker. Like you talk about this a lot. It's really just like a virtual worker. Like it's basically kind of view it as my assistant, and the multiplier effect I get from that is things that used to take me months now take like days, like just literally days, and I'm getting the same type of output I was getting before. The code is solid. The code is, I know how to make it secure. I know how to architect it. All that's getting done, and I'm just kind of using the agent to drive and multiply my effort. And the multipliers that I'm seeing are are just huge. Like, one of the things we've talked about, I mean, a little bit of inside baseball for us is using AI augmented. hourly billing becomes a problem because that you can't bill for it hourly because there is in some cases less than a couple hours, maybe half a day's worth of work. So, um, but that's another conversation. But what I'm really seeing is the ability to multiply the work that I do that's productive and get it done faster, and I can do more work. And then any task that is kind of a mundane task, it's not really a task that is not driving forward my engineering efforts. I can just spin off an agent and have that agent go do the work, review the output, and then those tasks get done. So the way I'm seeing it right now is, yeah, agentic is definitely a thing, but I think the agents get some of the more low level, medium level tasks that don't require a lot of human in the loop, just standard stuff like when we get in this email, you extract these two files and then you call this API, right? This is a simple automation that I have running for one of our clients. And that type of work is good. Where I see value from an engineering standpoint is when, for example, I'm working with another client, and since it's a new product, I don't think you would mind if we mentioned it on here. It's called Grapplers Clash, and it's a platform that allows people who are doing wrestling and MMA to set up tournaments and just compete locally with other people that are doing that kind of thing. I think that has value, but I've had the experience of just driving that to done. And I think originally the app was vibe coded. Um, and where I do see value in vibe coding is I understood Jake's intent completely. I knew exactly what he wanted. He handed me a POC and said, it's not quite working right. And I went through the POC and then I put a week or two of engineering effort on top of it to clean up the code, get the database a little bit better, work out some of the features that weren't exactly working right, bug testing, QA, all that. But what that vibe coded app gave me was basically I saved hours of the conversation I would have with Jake because he already had the conversation with the robot, and the robot put out its best effort, and it was okay. But I could see the intent, and all the features were laid out, and everything was documented, and then I could just focus on driving the robot to produce a better output.
Gotcha. So, Bill, circling back to the question at hand, right? When
Yeah,
we
well,
look at the change in, speaking to the Luddites, the laggards, why this isn't just another React release or, some new framework that's being pushed out. This is just a paradigm shift in how work will be done within software. And for your reasons, it's, enabling you to become the 5x, 10x, whatever X engineer, allows you to drive projects to completion that, just previously were
still
lagging.
involved. I'm still involved at every step of the code. I'm just not writing it. And I think where the people who are resistant are is they don't want to let go of writing the code, but that problem has been solved,
Yeah.
right? And what I think you're going to see in the future is engineers will just take a step up and, like you've said in the past, into the management layer, and they'll be managing agents, working with harnesses to take this
Well,
awesome deterministic thing and make it work consistently in a way that the business needs it to run.
yeah, it's system level thinking instead of application layer, right? Where
Yeah,
you're taking a
yeah,
look at how the entire workflow processes end to end versus just how I'm going to solve it in my narrow niche of this
yeah,
box, aka
yeah,
this
yeah,
application.
yeah.
And I
It
believe that is
is
taking off.
actually more fun, dude. It's more fun from an engineering mindset to sit there and think about the system as a whole than all the lines of code that make up that system. Like I
Yeah.
can, it's not a black box because you can peek into it, but you can kind of think of it like the code is a black box, and then it's really you can guide the code to the correct architecture for sure, or guide the agent. But
I,
it
I would attribute it more, again, I love to use the physical world, right, to describe what we're um, uh, facing in the software setting is that instead of worrying about your engine or your transmission or your suspension. You're really looking at a holistic overview of the total car and how to just make it fast, right? For layman's perspective, and
Yeah.
that's the same thing we're kind of seeing in this software revolution of AI usage in software development. Is that you're really taking a look not just at your specific application, but how your application connects to the totality of that workflow and how it connects to multiple applications. And then what does that give management or employees or anybody using your software an additional viewpoint to see failures or error rates that previously were just hidden in your bucket, right? Your silo.
Yeah.
Those become apparent now, and from efficiency standpoint, these are just gains that are just ripe within any industry, right? Like folks have intercommunication, right? And Atmosoft as a whole specializes in integrations. So we already know what it means to talk to one application to the other, and what the standards and the data mapping between these two applications, and what we need to care about, and what the client cares about, and then things we need to worry about down the road that we may not want to just add in additional fields. To bucket in information that may be relevant in the future. That all is now moving lightning speed and could be done via AI, um, and specifically within MCP servers to allow agents to have this overview of an application that previously took a significant amount of capital to do an integration between two apps. Now it's next to nothing, right? I don't want to say it is nothing because there's still value in understanding your application, building your MCP server. But once that has been stood up, the world becomes your oyster. And I think, just like you're mentioning, the next abstraction layer from an engineering standpoint is how can I get all these systems to talk to each other end to end and deliver more value, not just on the application side, but at the
Yeah,
entire.
you can look at that now, and also the debugging experience when something goes wrong is amazing. So let's say we have a complex system. Let's just say we're using Kubernetes. We've set up multiple pods, and we have our API layer, and we have our database, and we have all these different containers that are running, and the robot is able to so much faster just figure out where the failure is, what's going wrong, what's not communicating. Like, I've spent some debug sessions where it would have taken me days, and the robot just went into all the containers and looked at all the logs and read everything, and it was like, oh, here's the problem, we need to fix this API endpoint because it's failing here. And normally that would have probably taken me days to slush out, and it's literally 5, 10, 15 minutes of letting the robot dig through all the logs and then surface the problem. And then not only that, after it surfaces the problem, you can also, I have it set up now to where this doesn't get checked in directly into production, but if it finds problems, it just fixes them, creates a work tree in Git, and then sends me a note saying, hey, you need to review this, I found this problem. And it's just auto monitoring and then auto code correction.
And I would actually extrapolate that out, Bill, just as advanced CI/CD, right? Like it's taking
Yeah.
it to the next level. How do you implement AI in your CI/CD? Is exactly what you just mentioned, right? This automated
You
effort.
have to be careful because I think you have an article where someone's stuff got deleted, right? Like,
Yeah, well, there's a couple things out here right
yeah,
now, right? I think there's folks that are seeing various things in play out, but like these are problems that have occurred within software, um, even amongst teams before leveraging AI. Like I think there's one issue right now where, um, like this one that just came out that I liked. They mass emailed an entire database 20 times per contact without permission. Now I
my
could
first question:
easily.
why was it even able to do that? Seriously, like
Well, that's a whole nother thing, right? I think there's a learning curve for how you should be leveraging AI and what production keys or what keys at all you should be giving it and what access. But if you read this without the permission piece, if you just read this as mass emailed an entire database 20 times per contact, I've worked with engineering teams that have mass email databases regularly, right? I mean, I didn't love it when the situation happened, but these are problems that our engineering teams are already doing, let alone implementing an agent to do just that. And I think this kind of better speaks and calls back to what we talked about earlier, Bill, and offline as well, is the agentic revolution in software, specifically around software engineering, really just an abstraction layer of managing a team, right? In this case, virtual workers.
I,
When you think about it, like virtual workers versus like
yeah,
offshore, nearshore, right?
yeah.
There's different contexts that you have to use and explanations and more guardrails you have to place around certain teams that you may be working
Yeah,
with.
that's what I'm saying. Look, highlight the paragraph where it starts. Model actively violated written safety rules. Why didn't they have a harness? You can't. The model is non-deterministic. It's going to do whatever it wants to do. It's your job to prevent it from doing that. You can't just write it in an ND file and expect that the agent is 100% or the model is 100% of the time going to honor the agent ND file. Like it's not you. This instruction, that safety rule should have been in the harness and it should have been deterministic with code. And the agent should have gone to the harness and the harness should have said, nope, you can't do that.
So I completely agree, Bill, and I love the way folks are abstracting this, saying, "Hey, this isn't a hallucination. This isn't a coding mistake. It actively violated
It's a
safety
coding
rules."
mistake
When
because
you
they should have had a harness.
when you're putting safety rules in the model and counting on MD files, right, for it to read through in the context window, you're still in a non-deterministic approach. And the whole purpose of including a harness on the top of it, and for folks that aren't aware of, is adding a deterministic property to the output that you're looking for, right? And enforcing these hard guardrails around what exactly your solution is going to be outputting at the end of the day. So I completely agree with you here. But again, I just think in and of itself, when we talk through managing virtual employees, right, and in this case, we'll call them agents or any flavor of what folks want to discuss them as. Um, it requires its own nuance, right? Like, I've managed teams across, South Asia, Asia proper, near shore in South America, Brazil, Argentina, and each one of those teams had a different flavor of how they understood the instructions to build whatever type of software we were looking to do or whatever the project called for. And you could easily see mistakes balloon or issues arise in managing those teams in the same way that virtual agents are doing, right? I see so many parallels in what is being done with agents versus what's being done in an international setting. And I
I
just
agree.
believe,
And
yeah,
the biggest difference is agents are going to make mistakes and they're going to be faster and larger. And so you need to consider that when you're thinking. Like, for example, you said teams have probably done this before, I'm sure. Like
yeah,
you emailed the contact list like 20 times and it was a mistake and
yeah,
the
we
company.
caught it after like time three, right?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
but even still, I had
But
to
on
explain.
on this scale,
Yeah,
when Opus makes a mistake, it's going to be bigger.
yeah, it's quicker, right? Like I think that's the thing is you pay the price in the sense that the delivery is a delivered output is so much faster than you would on an offshore team or a nearshore team, or even for that matter, onshore teams that make mistakes, right? Nobody is like perfect, and all I'm calling into account is the agentic revolution really at the end of the day just another form of management of another team, right? In this case, a
Yeah,
virtual worker,
for
and
sure.
I believe that's also another reason where you're calling on this skill set and your discussion about, calling it an assistant of sorts, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, Bill, you've led engineering teams before. You've given direction. You've been a technical leader. Um, how much of that translation of those skills really translate over to managing agents, virtual employees, whatever flavor?
So the reason why I really like the augmented term is because of that exact question. Like it definitely directly translates. I feel like with augmented, you have to be a little bit more on hand. Like you have to be on hand to kind of discover and realize what the agent is doing, and then kind of guiding the agent. So I like assistant better because it's more like go do this task. Because remember, like I think a lot of mistakes that people are making, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, the model learns." The model doesn't learn anything until they ship out a new version. Like
Well, you
it,
know what I
it
find interesting too is the how these instructions are given, almost laissez-faire, right?
yeah,
Like where you're discussing it over coffee to a
I can
fellow
talk to AI
colleague.
like
Here
that.
you go,
It's
right?
always
But
on super specific things.
yeah, but if again, if we go back to the model of this is just another flavor of another team, right? Like going back to this international model, now we're just including virtual workers, which in this case are robots, right? Models, however you want to discuss them as. If we created right, wrong, or different Jira stories, Asana stories, whatever, user stories, so to speak, and assigned the tasks and had explicit instructions in the acceptance criteria, what the user story was meant to do, um, pages upon pages of test cases that need to be done, explicit unit tests, happy path, negative path, edge case scenarios, all those things under the sun written out, and then when you give that to the virtual worker agent in this case, how much closer would we be to actual output of normal teams? And I think that right now we're in this flavor of just ask Claude anything and type it into the CLI, right? And there's a lack of structure, and I don't think that's a wrong thing, but we're treating it almost like it's a fellow colleague where I can, lean across my chair and say, "Hey, would you mind tackling this because you're in the same setting? We've been pair programming, you understand the full context." But when we look at larger teams and how software um, successfully is built amongst international groups, it comes more down to that structure that I just described, and I
Right.
believe that's what's
The
missing today.
human needs to orchestrate, and I don't think I think and we've done tests on this. So I've done pipelines where we drop in the statement of work and then follow it and then just let the robot go until it's done. And I feel like that's effective, but I also feel like it's too broad.
Well, the
Like
thing is, it's work that
here's what I want to do, and here's all the things involved, all the systems involved, and here's what the customer wants, and we write all that up, and then we drop it into the agent, and then it does do quality output, and I think it makes for a great first pass, but then I think the second pass has to be much more guided,
yeah.
as tuning it for production, and that's where you're sitting and working with the
But
guy
I'm
next.
just talking about teams that have never adopted it, right? Or discussing how do we get AI into our workflows, right? When we look at small shops or people that haven't taken up this journey, I think that's a better way to categorize it. Is that
First, we need to understand the work. Like, what
yeah,
work are the people actually doing? And what are the steps to do that work? And if you could write that out, then an agent can do it.
yeah, and that's the business requirements, right? What is the document that we're putting together that contains all the structured goals of success? Have that mapped out, right? Have an SOW completely end to end with um, what the deliverables should be, and then, like you said, first pass through, go ahead, see what comes out of that, right? It's I think folks that believe one shotting is the way to go. One shotting through an SOW is the first step to success. And then after, just like you mentioned, it's like hooking up and wiring things that weren't gelling well together, right? In order to get a more production stable application.
Yeah.
I believe that is the true metric of how to best use AI. Um, but that being said, depending on you know, what kind of project is this? Is this a legacy project? Is this greenfield new development? I think that's an active discussion as well. And there's different parameters that you would want to use this for. Um, but yeah, I think that gets us into that gets us far enough along about what folks should be doing and how they should leverage AI in a software shop. Um, are there other things you've noticed this week, Bill? I mean, I'm just going to go through the timeline of news and see what's being discussed. But I wanted to make sure, if there's any more on this topic.
It's more. I'm kind of in the. We've been doing this for a while, so and it's new for everybody. So I'm kind of in this framework of listening to other people and kind of listening to their ideas, and my brain keeps coming back to just basically like context management. Like I think people get the idea that if I put these documents in here and the robot has all the source code, is the robot's got all of it in its head, and that is just not how it works.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm definitely for agents. I'm definitely for all the entire workflows. But as I kind of think about it more, it seems like engineering is shifting to this context management state, and sometimes we give the robot way too much context, like just way too much. Like it just doesn't need all of that information because I just need it to do this one thing. And then I've been having problems lately. I don't know if this is a 4.7 problem for Claude or if it was a problem with 4.6, but it started just stubbing stuff out. Like it'll say it's done, and then I'll go in and check and look and do my refactoring and like go in and start doing unit tests, and I'll see method, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, I just stubbed out that method. Like it doesn't actually do anything. I just stubbed it out. So I think the model providers are, which can't rightfully complain about it, but I think they're driving the model to be a little more lazy, and people should be a little
Well,
bit aware of
I
that.
think there's an abstraction layer there as well, where we discuss, um, you know, our frontier models, frontier companies kind of tightening up shop, and there's less subsidized of token cost and compute.
Mhm.
I believe that's a conversation that's ongoing, and folks that have been heavily in this space have noticed a dip in quality, right? And I think that was already something that Claude themselves acknowledged not too long ago, about the code quality slip. They investigated, they published a postmortem on 3 issues, and they fixed it in version 1.1.116.
Yeah.
And they reset usage limits. So it's like this rolling, like, hey, we're doing our best to kind of build this train and build the railway at the same time, right? So I give them the benefit of the doubt there. Um,
Yeah.
let's actually take a look at what Claude Devs has published. We'll go back a little bit to earlier this week. So they refreshed Claude Code on the web and mobile, a few things that recently shipped. I read something the other day that folks have been using Claude Code for close to a year, and what it started with and where it's at now are not even like the same product anymore. And I
Oh,
think that's another difficulty in adoption of AI, is like trying to like stay current in this mess is just really hard when even the folks that are publishing this stuff, or using their tools, are making these changes lightning speed. And that comes as a result of like the time to deliver applications has reduced, right? Like with AI, and these folks know how to use this best, right? The practices and what we're adhering to, Bill, what we're discussing, absolutely are being done within Anthropic and an open AI. But that's just something to make a note of. And I like something recently that I'm really excited to see, is two Anthropic engineers spend 24 minutes discussing every Claude code feature you didn't know existed. I almost think this is like a soft product launch yet again of the same product, to say here's what we've done in the year since, right? So I'm excited to go through this. 24 minutes. I'll see it probably at 2x speed, but I'm excited to see what they unveil. But going back to Claude Devs, great that they've pushed another refresh out there. Excited to see what that is. Push notifications to your phone. That is something that's super beneficial, and I think it's changed the way software is being written right now.
yeah, well, yeah, that's basically when it needs you to approve something. And I noticed that on my phone the other day, or actually today. I was away from my desk, and it popped up a message that, hey, Claude needs permission for something, which is really nice because I can just click accept on my phone and then it continues working.
And I believe that's like what everybody wants at the end of the day, at least from the software world, is the fact that you don't have to be tethered to a desk, and
Yeah.
instead you can, set up your entire SOW, push it through Claude, and then throughout the day as it's making changes, just text it naturally on your phone, right? I mean, what is a computer, right? Is it not your phone in your hand? So really, you're just taking yet another abstraction layer, and instead of sitting at a desktop working on the CLI, you're now having Claude Code do exactly that and then ping you when it needs you for you to be actively involved to review, right? I think that's a huge benefit. And I mean, I'm honestly, I don't know. Has OpenAI, have they pushed out something like this yet, Bill? Uh,
So the I am my goal for next week is to do a deep dive into Codex and get a feel for what's going on there. I'm gonna pay for the Max subscription or the equivalent on the Codex side and see. It seems like OpenAI is going more towards agentic, and Anthropic's going more towards the developer development experience. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting right now. And I do want to say, interestingly enough, I like where these guys are going, because we did something similar with Atmobot. So Atmobot currently is hosted in Azure. So it's a harness, but it's not running on my local machine. But there are dispatch agents that are installed on other machines that just issue commands on those machines. So it's like our brain is in Azure, but it has arms and legs into our workstations that can do useful work.
No, I completely agree, and I'm curious. I mean, I would love to see probably at parody video of OpenAI kind of scrolling through with Codex as well, just because I feel of recent, even though Anthropic has done a great job of marketing themselves as business centric, and I believe they've invested, I think it was like $200 million into having embedding themselves within enterprise.
Excuse me?
I think I got to find that article, um, but it's just I really things like where am I finding this? Anthropic pulled Claude Code from the Pro plan. Pro users now wanting it need Max now, $100 a month minimum, 5x jump, right? So like things like that are happening, and even though I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt of other things, stuff like this is just like kind of pulling the rug out from
Yeah,
under.
and I never thought I would say this, but we obviously have a compute problem here, and I'm kind of wondering if I had a thought the other day about, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding weird, but like maybe not everyone should be using this. Like
Yeah,
real.
you've talked about this, Bill, and I'd love to kind of drill down on this when we talk about operators. Your end state, whether people like it or not, is that potentially we see for builders a licensing model where folks have to, obtain a license to be able to use software development or
Just
use.
don't fly a jumbo jet, and there's a reason why I can't fly a jumbo
Yeah,
jet. I don't know how. Like this is not a simple, like, oh, I'm going to go watch this guy's video and he's going to teach me how to prompting problem. That this is there are serious consequences to not using this tool right, not understanding hallucinations, not like you could you're you could vibe code something and deploy it and then get sued out of existence. Like you just expose all the customers' data, all their passwords, whatever your little applet thing was doing, or whatever. Like this is a serious tool. And I'm not saying, like, but I would be fine getting having to get licensure here. Like it's just kind of my idea. We're already going to see this problem where a lot of people don't want the data centers, and companies want to invest in the compute power. But if this was a regulated licensed product, then maybe we could avoid having to pollute all these, you know uh all these areas with all these data centers. There's supposedly one going to be built in Salt Lake City, and it is going to use twice the amount of power that is already being consumed by the state of Utah. By the
yeah.
state, man. That's crazy. And to be honest, like, yeah, it just seems. But I mean, it'll be slow. We'll see what happens. But I could kind of see. I'm getting more in the point of just from what I've seen and my personal experience and what I've been doing with it, where I kind of wonder if this tool should be in the hands of every person on the planet that has an extra $20.
Well, I don't want to be exclusionary just yet, right? I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of
That's not, I apologize
right.
if that's how that came across. That's not exactly what I'm saying, but it's more like, Like this
Well,
is
you're talking about real problems that like other
yeah,
engineers now have to solve. When people
yeah,
introduce kind of
yeah.
these applications that are just not secure. So I understand the point. I just don't want to ever come off that we're pulling at the ladder behind us because we've got it figured out, and
Yeah, oh yeah, for
the
sure,
next generation don't
sure.
have to.
But I mean, if I wanted to go become a commercial pilot, there's a path. Like I could go do
Correct.
that, like as an example. So it doesn't really pull up the flag. It just makes the barrier of entry a little bit, a
Well,
little.
that kind of gets into the whole why is software engineering not an official licensed engineering practice? And folks have said for a
You know
number.
what? That is a great point. I
It
had never
there's
thought
there's a
about that.
long and tenured discussion on this
Yeah,
why, right? And it really comes down to money.
yeah.
Um, at the end of the day, like most things do. I won't get onto it now because I just don't have all the nitty gritty facts, and even in my head, it's still a little hazy about all the esoteric reasons why. But there is a detailed deep dive that I'm sure folks can figure out why that is, and also the import. Yeah, long story short, I'm gonna leave it there. Um, so back to what I was mentioning about Anthropic, and kind of them getting in everywhere. They've raised, it looks like $200 million into new venture, along with Blackstone, General Atlantic, and Hellman and Friedman, and they want to teach private equity backed companies how to deploy Claude across their operations. Um, and private equity firms push the decision across their entire portfolio at once, right? So they're kind of hitting a different abstraction layer to try to get involved and embedded within enterprise.
I would
OpenAI,
be hesitant, very hesitant, and I'm just gonna say this outright for any company tying to one of these vendors. Like I would be super hesitant. Like
yeah, and
seriously,
you know
like
what, Bill, I agree with you 100% when we talk about risk, vendor risk. This is one of those. But they're right now trying to IPO, right? So they're going to just push whatever. I'm
I
sure these will be.
understand what they're doing, but I'm saying from a business perspective, I'm thinking about it. I don't want to be. I use Quad. That's my primary use,
Yeah,
and that is the primary one that I'm using. I have subscriptions to the other ones too, and I go back and forth and have different models check the model output of one
yeah.
model, and that workflow works fine. But I am not going to bet my business on Claude. We've already seen some slight shenanigans, which we talked about last time, that make this super
Well,
risky. You should
things
be
like
model agnostic.
no announcement, pricing page edit, right? And then I'm seeing, um, you know, Claude Max at 20x, and then seeing that just because they've got Hermes.md in his commit file, um, his git commits, they're charging more, right? Like it's these kind of like practices that people are discovering as they go. And
Yeah.
it is frustrating for Anthropic. And that's why, I understand the whole, there's a battle right now with OpenAI and they're in the news, but I'm not seeing this sort of thing come from OpenAI, and really a lot of it is coming from Anthropic, and they've got a lot of goodwill because of standing up to the Pentagon and things of that nature, right? And I just when it comes down to the meat and potatoes of it, like there needs to be more competition in this space.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that
Well, I
we're
don't
still.
think you can compete at the model level, dude. I don't think you can compete at the model level without hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh
So
yeah, I don't. I mean, look at Anthropic was a
that hard.
spin-off of OpenAI, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm under no illusion that anybody just Joe Schmo can come up and build a model, right? I think
yeah, yeah,
all the human capital and the talent in the world has already been identified about who can do
yeah.
what, and where are those folks? Almost like the atomic bomb, right? Everybody's kind of categorized and accounted for at this point. It's just a matter of um,
There's not enough to go around, so we have to take a step back and approach it from a slightly different direction where we want to build and focus on building tools that are model agnostic, because the other thing is these models, we can already see the divergence between the direction OpenAI is going. They seem to be interested in long running agents that just go and do work, and they just sit there and they run all the time, and that seems to be you come to us, we're your agentic building platform. Again, I wouldn't build on top of OpenAI, but and Claude is going more in the direction of assisting people to realize their technical visions and moving companies kind of in that direction with better UI tooling, better
Well, you know what it
better
is, Bill.
developer
I do
experience.
think that folks want to just be a Anthropic shop, just similar to out today. Some people are a Microsoft shop, right? Like it's just the
I
way.
was that way, but that's just because that was the tooling that I was good at. I'm not anymore.
No, no, of course, but I'm giving like the macro enterprise perspective, right, of why folks would try to embed Claude into everything, right? And I don't think that it's. I think we foresee the problems. I think that folks that want to depend on Claude, no problem, right? I think there will be winners and losers no matter what. And when we advise how folks are going to move on their AI
And
journey,
not to fall into this trap though. Just thinking about it a little bit and being like,
yeah,
okay, I'm going to build something around this model, like your saddle horse thing, right? And I'm going to build this saddle, and then I'm going to put the saddle on whatever horse I want to, whatever horse does the best job. Because again, model capabilities vary. There are the free open source models, the Hugging Faces, the Olamas, and those models are coming up too. Like I
yeah.
think the latest Quinn models, like be honest, I don't have the best hardware right now, and you can't buy cards. And so getting something to do at home is kind of a big deal. But the latest Quinn model is getting some really good reviews on performance.
I've seen amazing things by this
Yeah.
3.6, right? You're
Yep.
discussing, yeah,
Yep.
3.6. People are commentating, and I see
At home, you
varying.
have like a $10,000 setup, right? But if I built the harness, I could just go to somebody else who's already bought that hardware, like an Open Router or one of the other providers, and I can have them host the model for me, and I can get those benefits. But I can't do that if everything I'm doing is locked into Claude or Anthropic.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think just like you're mentioning, right, there needs to be a multi-model discipline mindset from the folks that want to be top of their game. I think if you're loyal to any one specific model, you're really kind of pigeonholing yourself into what your success really could look like, because
Yeah.
different models are going to be better at different things versus agentic tooling, and you see that in the benchmarks. Some models do benchmarks, right, where they're just trying to hit the score and do whatever. But you're
Kind
right,
of like what VW did with their car on the miles per gallon. So
exactly right.
I
And
know I'm being tested right now, so I'm gonna lie about what I'm doing.
well, we don't want to say lie, but definitely, stretch
Yeah,
the truth of what might be
yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, to your point, 3.6, I've seen a lot of chatter, and this is like within what, a week of release, I believe.
Yep,
And
yep.
folks are just folks that I think really understand implicitly all the connectivities. Are they using Olama? Are they using Llama CCP? Are they using what is it? There's other,
Yeah,
VLLM, like so like there's different ways you can connect into the model and tune it and perform it on your local hardware. And I've seen folks that have blatantly said that it's matching Opus 4.5 from a coding standpoint locally, which is
yeah,
like super valuable. I mean, 4.5 was really where the whole game started to shift.
yeah.
And really, you and I took a look and said we have to get behind this, right? So I think if you've got 4.5 level quality coding, even if it's like 30 tokens, 15 tokens a second locally, that's going to severely reduce your amount of dependency on the frontier models and your
Yeah.
overall reliance on spend via API moving
You mentioned
forward.
something earlier. I think it was in our previous or actually, it was in this stream where you're talking about like the concept of token maxing.
Yeah,
That's the other
that,
thing people need to get their game on. You need to understand how your context is being built and how you're spending tokens. That's the other reason why you want to harness, because eventually, I believe this is my theory that the subscription models will go away, and then all of a sudden you're going to go from, oh, I was using Claude Max to power all my stuff in my office and was doing all these things, and it was $200 a month and that was fine, to now you're spending $150 a day because you didn't consider, what do I actually need to put into the context, what do I actually need to ship to the API, what is the output that I actually need to get. Because when you're using Claude CLI with your Max subscription, your Max subscription does not care about tokens. It cares about interactions. So
Yeah.
when you watch your Claude settings and you're looking at your usage and it's a 5%, 10%, you've used 50% of your weekly alliances, those are interactions. Those are not your token allotment. Those are interactions. And you need to start optimizing for those interactions and getting the most out of those interactions.
Yeah. And what I notice is like going back into like Claude, right? Again, it really feels like we're hammering Anthropic, right? But we're users of these tools, so I think it's fair if you're putting something out, especially in a production release, to call out. But like, for Claude to say, we've released 50 plus stability performances and performance fixes, and then for folks to come out and say we're hunting down bugs, let us know if you have any white whales. I mean, I feel like we've shifted towards like the user is QA,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it is frustrating. I think that
Dude,
adds to the
you
complexity.
remember our rounds of testing our agentic
Yeah.
harness Atmo bot, dude. You just can't cover everything. You can't.
No, well, the thing is, Bill, I also acknowledge economies of scale, right? When we take a look
Yeah.
at us building a harness internally with our engineering team and the limited capital and resources we have versus
Yep.
what's being thrown at these large companies, and I
That
really
is,
it's just to gain market share as fast as possible. It's
yeah,
right to launch a product that has. I think I saw something recently where folks are memeing that it's going to be Claude marketing, Claude everything, right? Like there's going to be a product for everything for Claude, and you know, um, folks are just going to have to accept that Claude's taken over every vertical, right? And I mean
yeah.
that is a little wild to think about. I mean, it may come true, it may not, but it is almost a hype cycle, and things like this where you're launching a product that seems great. The reason why I'm touching on this point is you have product teams, engineering teams that are working in this daily, and then you've got executives and other employees in the business that are saying, "Oh, well, this is possible. We saw an announcement by Anthropic," right? And that becomes frustrating to say, "Okay, well, we've got to go try this tool out, and then it's not performing, and now we're basically debugging for them what should be happening and sending in notes and taking us away from valuable productivity, right? I mean, that's my gripe there, versus like just actually going in and testing it. And I think this is a commentary that a lot of folks are holding right now, and Bill, even yourself, where, well, you know what? Anthropic and OpenAI are going to solve all problems anyway in all software. And like, what is the point of us building anything? And I still think that's the wrong approach. Maybe in like the 10-year horizon, maybe that's true.
No,
Once,
no. The thing about it is, it's not that they're going to build it. It's then the tool. Like, okay, seriously, like you're not going to do a Salesforce type platform in a weekend. That requires
yeah,
money, infrastructure, and stuff like that. But there are some core features of Salesforce that you could just do yourself. And I'm not picking on Salesforce. This is a random one that came to mind. Like Salesforce is actually pivoting to an interesting to be more AI infrastructure, which I think is a great business move for a
yeah,
SaaS company.
I
But
agree.
software is no longer a moat. Like think about open source and that evolution, and think about when .NET went open source. So that's Microsoft programming, C Sharp, all the things, right? They open sourced that whole entire framework. And your immediate thought at the time was like, wow, why would they do that? Because then someone could just go out and compete and take and build a competing .NET. Well, the thing about that is they already had the reach, they already had the customer base, they already had everything lined up. So yeah, I could go out technically and take an exact and build my own version of .NET and my own C-bill compiler or whatever. Like I could go do that, but the amount of work and effort involved in that is huge. But that gap is gone now.
Yeah,
It's not a gap anymore. In fact, if somebody does something awesome with their instance of OpenClaw, and I see it on Twitter or on X or whatever, I just go tell my agent, hey, look, this guy went and did this. What do we think about this? And then we dissect it, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna just add
yeah.
that
I
in.
think product roadmaps are quite full with ideas. My
Yeah.
commentary again is just, are those ideas mature enough to be able to launch? I still think that folks in their niches will still be able to launch quality products that
Oh, for sure.
eventually Anthropic or OpenAI or other companies will decide to say, let's get into that space. Sort of like how Amazon, developed their Amazon Basic line, where they kind of took a look at the best sellers and said, how can we best compete in this market? But it's not like Amazon, can create any product they want, but they don't, right? They kind of take a
Yeah.
look at what's the most volume and profitable. I believe that's really where we're going to start seeing things head. But it doesn't mean that there's not opportunity.
That's a good thought too. I like that idea too, where you're kind of like you're not necessarily like competing with the sales force or whatever. Maybe you have some add-ons that you do on the side that augment Salesforce and sales. Yeah,
Yeah, I think those still exist. I'm just taking a look at Anthropic and OpenAI. I want to go back to the codex because I do feel that there's so much more codex can be doing. In-app browser.
yes. Okay, so Claude will complain on testing now. Before the 4.7 release. Oh, well, I'll just throw this out here so everyone else knows. So I talked about that app the that I worked on earlier, the Grapplers Clash. Well, after we deployed it into production, Claude basically refused to work the app that was released in production and do a sign up and create an account. I can't do that for security reasons. And I do think OpenAI is going in the opposite direction, where they're going to say, where their agents are going to be able to actually do stuff. I think you'll see or Anthropic's model. I think you'll start seeing them push back more as they try to harden their security standing and what it can do. And I don't think you'll see that on the OpenAI side, because realistically, like Claude CLI has a browser extension and it should just be able to go test my site.
Yeah,
I got the security concerns. I know exactly what it is. I could point it at someone else's random site, but it knows that I have all the code to Grapplers Clash, and that is what we deployed. And so why can't it go out into production and test? It has a browser extension, but it won't do it.
I think it's part of Anthropic's constitution model at the base
Yeah,
layer, on the model side,
yeah.
versus how OpenAI has decided to move forward with their model on the non-deterministic level. But going back to OpenAI, it feels like, this is a little delayed, April 9th, right? But they're updating their GPT and Pro and Plus subscriptions to support Codex. I'm looking around for Codex. I'm not seeing many discussions around it, I should
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
at least from OpenAI's official account. It's just there's updates. Maybe I should take a look at that.
I
Um,
know as of Friday, the Windows version that you get for the Microsoft App Store for Codex was broken. As of
yeah,
Friday,
it was broke.
it was a known issue or whatever. But yeah, it's a Windows Store app you download, which I wasn't a huge fan of the fact that I had to get it through Microsoft Store. But okay,
Yeah,
like that
multiple
was
agents who I mean, that could just be a Linux versus, trying to adapt to Microsoft's,
well, I'm pretty sure on the back of probably the Apple Store. I think Linux you probably can get a straight
yeah,
version. But I just don't like a Microsoft managed app that I had to download. Just can go to their website, like Anti Gravity. I can go down to the website and download it. Cursor, I can go down to the website and I can just download it and install it. Claude CLI, same thing. But Codex decided to go
and
through. We're gonna
here we,
be
here we go with MCP servers, Bill. Again, our stance: MCP servers almost mandatory. It comes down to what is the format that's going to win out. Yes, there's going to be other niche formats that people suggest or other areas, but most often just build an MCP server connecting directly to your application. That's going to be how you start your agentic journey. Quite frankly, I'm sure we'll see some delineation in the future of other types of instruction sets that go out and connect to applications, but right now MCP is winning, and that's to get the most bang for your buck and productivity. You're going to want to have an MCP server.
yeah. And your system should be any internal custom system that you built it's super easy. Just point your
Yeah,
robot your face and say, hey, make an MCP server wrapper, basically, and then you
yeah,
host the MCP server, and then it's just cleaner AI or API implementation. Basically, the MCP service has a little bit more detail, so that the agent can just get a handle on exactly what it's doing a little bit better versus trying to read your developer documentation with, I need you to pass in a start date and an end date and a contract number, right? This is not super descriptive on what's going on, and if your API is not following standards, then it just makes everything more confusing. MCP just exposes it better and lets the agent make a better choice on what tool calls to make to your API.
I completely agree. Let's take a look at the homepage. Player 2 defense. Official prompting guides both say the same thing. Your old prompts don't work anymore. Opposite reasons. Claude Opus 4.7. Stop guessing what you meant. It does exactly what you type. Nothing more, nothing less.
I like this. I've heard a lot of complaining about it. I am a fan.
Yeah.
And I will say this on 4.7, it will come back and ask you, like, yeah, kind of like, I like that it's not guessing. I really do. It's a little bit more work on the prompt, but I like the not guessing.
Okay. Vague instructions that worked on 4.6, they now produce narrow, literal, sometimes worse results. Not because the model got dumber, it stopped compensating for sloppy thinking. But 5.5, GPT 5.5 went in the opposite direction. OpenAI's guide says literally don't carry over instructions from older prompting stacks. Legacy prompts over specify the process because older models needed handholding. GPT 5.5 doesn't. That extra detail now creates noise and produces mechanical output. Claude got more literal. GPT got more autonomous. Both punish the same thing. Prompts written without clear thinking behind them. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. One developer on Reddit captured it perfectly after analyzing hundreds of community posts. The complaints tracked almost perfectly with the prompt specificity. Precise prompts got better results in 4.7. Vague prompts got worse. The model didn't regress. The prompts did. I mean, something I will note is like when I start reading like AI written outputs, I should say, it does get a little monotonous. Like I could tell whoever published this post definitely used like an AI to write this, and there should be some like. Sometimes it's like, well, I could just go prompt. If I found the two origin sources for this, I can write this whole tweet myself. This post. But yeah, long story short, it just seems like the thinking system is a skill. Great. Okay. Fantastic. Good to know.
Have we talked about what skills actually are? Like
just train prompt. I mean, like prompts that are cut out, right?
Prompt. It's just a text file that basically gives the agent a personality. You're an executive assistant, and then lists out what to do. Like it's like an instruction file, and then your skill files can vary greatly. Like I've seen some really good ones, I've seen some bad ones, especially around like there's a lot of skills around marketing and advertising. That seems to be kind of the core spot, and that's a not a soft spot for me, but that is a challenging spot for me. So those skills I find I do look up and read, and when they're written by someone that has a marketing background, and then they're basically just text instructions. So skills aren't anything magic, just a way to kind of align the robot to do a specific task.
Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of this is just like tech lingo or AI lingo, kind of exclusionary, right? And we're just trying to bring other folks into the fold where doesn't need to be nearly as complicated as folks. And it's been an evolving conversation, and obviously, I think Bill, you and I are taking it to a level that a lay person can understand.
Trying to. It's been a challenge.
We're doing our best. It's a challenge. GPT 5.5 is on par with Claude Mythos. GPT 5.5 average pass rate 71.4. Mythos preview 68. So you're telling me I have Mythos quality right now? I believe it. I'm just laughing because you talk about the hype around Mythos. That's just Anthropic trying to sell a model, and honestly, I do think
it's at least partially true.
I
the hype is what they're
saying. I think it's hype, and I think they just really, at the end of the day, they want to protect their intellectual property, and they're tired of Chinese models coming in and distilling the information and using Claude Mythos to train better models that now folks in China are releasing open source. It's just a way to like basically stopgap from seeing intellectual property leak. And it's funny too because then you go around the full circle where you'll have investors and folks who are in Anthropic saying, "Well, like that's right, they should be doing this." But then you look at how Anthropic and OpenAI trained on their data sets, and they weren't open, and they didn't get approval either. So, like, again, I'm America first.
Scroll up.
I'm all about
Yeah,
us
yeah.
winning.
Let's scroll up. I don't want that one on screen. Yeah,
Which
there.
one?
You can mention it. It's got some swear words in it. We don't need to do that.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got.
That post, I'm assuming, is about the blackmail stuff, which the agents will, which rumors are that the models will push back on with blackmail.
Oh no, this was actually something different. This was like news
Oh,
in JP Morgan.
oh yeah.
Basically, it was a
Oh wow,
executive sexually harassing and abusing a junior male employee.
wow.
Just just
Well,
not great stuff.
yeah,
I'm sure the facts will come out. I don't know if they had a relationship, if this was consensual or not, right? So we'll let the facts play out,
yeah,
wherever they need to. Right now, it's just early reporting.
yeah.
Um, this guy caught Claude Opus thinking Chinese. Well, full circle. What is Opus training on?
Yeah.
Are they distilling off of Chinese models as well now? Is that where we're going?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know what data sets they're proprietary internally, and obviously, I think most folks would love to know, but that's just not the case. Um, Anthropic shipped Claude security again. Claude security, Claude marketing, Claude whatever, any of these verticals. I'm happy for folks that are going to be using it. I think it gives them uh, an abstraction layer for them to kind of focus on.
Killed
And
it himself though. That's the funny
I,
thing. I get it. I get it. They're
it's
I-
like building,
security.
becoming an AWS expert or an Azure expert. Like
Yeah.
this is the same version of flavor of that. Is that you use Claude security, and I think that there's value there.
I think what they're
Again,
doing is basically building really complex skills.
you
I don't know.
know, no,
It's
I
like
listen. I don't disagree, Bill. I mean, maybe there's more to it. There's a whole console. Maybe there's a dashboard that spits out additional reporting.
maybe it's a
There's
special model trained just on security, and it
there,
only
there could be a lot of things under the
yeah,
hood. You
yeah.
know, I hope it works well, and I hope it does its job. I'm all for um, protecting enterprises and protecting data, right? So I want that to work out. This person built Claude a body. Well, God bless. We love it.
That's
Good
awesome.
job. Stop hitting your Claude Code rate limits. I believe I don't need you need to install the caveman skill. I think that's a little foolish. I think you just need to get better at prompting, or focus on building um, prompt optimization into you or token optimization. That can take its own call, Bill. I don't think we need to dive into
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
You talked about token maxing earlier, but the optimization is it's definitely could easily fill up an hour just talking about trips and techniques around that. But it's something that everyone needs to be thinking about.
yeah,
Because be honest, like again, I'll say it one more time. Just my theory is the subscription stuff eventually is going to go away. It's
yeah.
just straight pay to play, and you need to be ready for that transition.
Well, look, Eric, this is already soft launching with Mythos, right? White House reportedly opposes Anthropic's plan to expand preview access to Mythos over fear it lacks the compute to do so without affecting government use. So the government gets the best model, not private industry. Again, probably just protections around ensuring that the Chinese models don't distill off of Claude Mythos. Rightfully so, right? We want to stay ahead of the game in LLMs, but the gap is closing. Kaparthi gave a 30-minute Sequoia masterclass on agentic engineering, serious layer above vibe coding, right? So that's kind of what we've been talking about. This
Yeah,
might be a good video for us to watch through, Bill. 29 minutes
yeah.
discussing LLMs as ghosts. Okay, interesting flavor to say that. The app shouldn't exist. Okay. And outsourced thinking, not understanding. Interesting. Let's see this thread. I'm curious what it boils down to, because those are very interesting. Software changed shape 3 times. Software 1.0, people write code. 2.0 neural net weights we train. 3 prompts to LLMs. English is the hottest new programming language. That's funny.
It's funny.
I would say, that's because you're pushing Anthropic, but a lot of these Chinese models, they're more optimized when you're writing in Chinese, right?
I like
The,
Andrew's
the
comment.
character
That one,
the
yeah.
characters, like they're actually token optimized because you could say more with less. And I think it's not. Is it the kanji? I think kanji's Japanese, but
Yeah, yeah.
the characters are just they
Yeah,
contain more flavor, more communication over one character versus
for
a whole
sure.
sentence. So
Yeah.
actually optimized to write in Chinese. But hey, I understand he's got to sell his product. Vibe coding's not a joke. It's a new entry. I see stuff, I say stuff, I run stuff, I copy paste stuff. It mostly works. Yeah, okay. Prototypes are not systems. Feeling fast is not. Yeah, I mean, getting to an MVP is great.
Yeah.
Agentic engineering is a serious layer above vibe coding. Vibe coding is, can I make it work? Agentic engineering is, where does it fail? How do I verify it? How do I keep control?
The
Yes.
new skill is managing cognition. Yep, that guy nailed
Yeah.
it.
LLMs are not animals. They're closer to ghosts. They're not anything, guys. They're just like Markov chains. I mean,
Yeah.
if statement. I mean, like realistically, it's just a probability. But folks really get attached to it, and I guess you could say the same thing about calling your car my baby or naming your car or some inanimate object. There's folks out there that do it, don't necessarily think that it's correct. I would say the same thing of kind of LLMs. It's just they're just tools. Like, please don't get it twisted. But hey, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever
and
folks.
they don't think and they don't learn, and they're only going to output what is in the context. Like
Yeah,
it's
and there's a limit, right? You talked
yeah,
about Lacombe's. We need to build world models. Like, technically, LLMs are constrained and they have an upper limit. And the question is, are we there yet? And
yeah,
maybe the answer is yes. But whatever. Great, they're not animals. They're definitely not alive. Please don't ever think that. Intelligence is jagged. Emphasizes that models can be brilliant in one moment and bizarrely wrong in the next. Yeah, just how you're prompting it. Um, Great. Verifiability is a bottleneck. You can quickly check the work. AI becomes a force multiplier.
yeah,
If you do not check it, AI becomes a confidence machine. Carthy's warning: you still need a way to know if it's right. I would ask every senior engineer, do they check every junior engineer's code before they push?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
yeah,
obviously we want to check things and people want to do the best they can, but real life does show itself. Um,
yeah.
the best AI tasks have tight feedback loops. Coding works because the computer can answer: did it compile? Did it pass tests? Did the page render? Did the diff make sense? Give the agent environment where reality pushes back. So far, I'm not really seeing anything revolutionary here, Bill. Right?
Yeah.
The app that shouldn't exist now exists. Describes a menu app that became pointless once the model could look up the image in the pixels directly. Okay, more people can build. Context is the new source code. That's what you were saying, Bill. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
verbatim.
Said it better.
Model, model only sees what you provide. Specs, examples, errors, docs, screenshots, constraints, and tests become part of the program. Bad context creates bad output. Great context creates better engineering. Okay.
Yes. Well said.
Treat agents like
All
interns, not oracles. That's what we're saying, right? Treat them like a resource, right? They need to have a clear task, relevant files, boundaries, checklists, tests, review, and they can do real work. But if it's not held accountable, you are. Uh,
Yep.
Behind is the honest feeling now. He's never felt more behind as a programmer. That's not a weakness. It's a correct response. Yeah, I mean, the spaces just move so fast, right? Like it's difficult for folks
Yeah,
to
it's insane.
outsource thinking, not understanding. You can outsource your thinking, but you can't outsource your understanding. They can draft, search, refactor, and generate options, but it can't own the final answer. Yeah, do it as a first pass.
Yeah. A lot of people are like letting the agent make decisions. I know a couple of my last interactions with clients has been basically I start the work, and then the agent comes back and says, "I need clarification on this," and then I email the client and wait for feedback on. But yeah, you shouldn't be outsourcing. Like you should be thinking about it for sure.
That the truth. Security alert: the popular Pi package Lightning has been compromised in a supply chain chain attack. Well, we're gonna see more of those as the days go by.
Sure.
Uh, little meme. Claude 4.7 refuses your request, my lord, because it could cause harm to the cell line. Oh dear, routes the request to DeepSeek V4 Pro. Hermes will call the
Yes.
open router.
How come that gets routed that way? Because they have a harness that is model
Yeah,
agnostic.
and
One
they
model,
know
no. There's 500 other models that'll probably say yes.
somebody will say yes, right?
Yeah.
Like get to it. That's why you got to be
If you're
mindful.
tied into quad, then no is no.
And I think this is a fake AI video of Dario out to dinner with somebody, especially as he looks over. I think it's just fake. Huge news from Cursor. They've pulled off the impossible and turned their AI wrapper into indestructible moat. Sam Altman called it 24 hours ago, and here we are. Cursor's AI agent harness is available for anybody to build on. Nice. That means AI models are now a commodity. Agree. One time install. Now anyone can run Cursor's agent locally or via cloud. Use any model, but with added Cursor harness makes it 10 times better. It's so good that three of Cursor's biggest
I'm gonna have to
competitors.
check out Cursor again. Dang it.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
know, right?
never ending, dude. Like what you were just saying earlier. This is never ending. So now Codex is on my list, and now I have to go back to Cursor.
I know, I know.
I'm now super interested in Cursor too. I'm going to spend next week on Codex. I think Codex is where
I think
I'm
yeah,
on.
Cursor might be coming out swinging.
Yeah.
They got that valuation, and then now they have the option to buy from SpaceX, and I
Yeah,
think they're working to earn every bit of it. So I don't
yeah.
doubt it.
I like
Uh,
Cursor. I thought that the product. I haven't used it in a while, but when I was
Four
using it,
man team. I think it's a 4-man team in San Fran working hard. So God bless them. They're doing
me
great
personally,
work.
I just like CLI. I just really do.
Yeah,
I think it's just old school. Kind of just. I just like Claude. Works better. Doesn't get in the way. You have code up in one window, Claude in the other window, and just do my stuff.
I'm not seeing much for 4:30. A lot of stuff from yesterday. Hermes, just another harness. Great work.
I
Yeah,
agree with this too. I agree with this too.
I think
I
run
really,
any
I
harness
really
at this
think it's
point and
key
figure out
that
harness.
yeah, the path deviation is becoming clearer on and I yeah, it's just becoming clearer on kind of what we need to do.
Here we go again. People talking about Mythos. This other tweet going viral and just saying Mythos is not really a doomsday device. It's just one of many models, right? So more conversation around that. Working with AI is miserable for one reason and one reason only: having to re-explain the same thing. Yeah,
Okay. What this guy is not doing is he is not having it take notes and create memories. I explicitly do checkpoints with my agents and tell them take notes, update documentation, and create memories. And
but
so
Bill,
what you
once
do in
again,
here, like I can open up and say review memory, and then I'm in the exact same context I was when I last
but Bill
left.
was is again to be specific. That's because you have a harness, correct?
No. This is in Quad. This is in Quad
Oh,
CLI. Quad does it now, but you have to tell it to do it. Like it tries to create memories and keep everything in context, but what he's not doing is explicitly telling it to document. If you're working with a Quad CLI or a Codex and it's not producing a crap ton of markdown files, then you're gonna have to start over fresh every time. Like
yeah.
I literally can go into one of my directories, my working directories, start up Claude, and then tell it read memory, read notes, and then it'll say, okay, here's where we left off, and I say, okay, let's go work on X.
Gotcha.
I do not have this problem ever at all, and it's all markdown files. It's not anything fancy like Atmobot. We built a fancy memory layer. I've done that work too, and that works great too. But but yeah, just in Claude, you could get something that's comparable where you don't run into that guy's problem.
Yeah. And then Kaparthi declared end of programming. As you know, it kind of like what we just covered already. I think we already went through the 12 items that were in that video. Every app I vibe code is a tech stack below. Great. Payment Stripe. That's so funny.
Yeah.
You've just taken
Stripe doing some
what
really cool stuff with agents, by the way.
I know, but I'm just laughing. Like,
yeah.
just simplify payments to just Stripe. Like, is a little, whatever. Good for them. If that's what works, it works. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good model. I pretty much follow that one too.
He put it on a Raspberry Pi. Okay, a little bit of a torturous to question its own existence forever. He built a physical art installation called Latency Reflection, where a language model runs on a $60 Raspberry Pi, 4 billion, or with 4 gigabytes of RAM. All right, well, great. I guess
it sounds horrible, but come on, it's
just a waste of electricity. But it seems cool. As long as it looks cool, that's what matters, right? We gotta have flashy flash. So good for them. Claude Obsidian. Someone built it inside Obsidian.
I like Obsidian. I've been using that a lot lately. I haven't wired it into any agents yet, but I've heard a couple people talking about this. That Nathy Jones guy had that second brain project that we did.
Yeah.
And his second version of that uses Obsidian for because you can link everything together.
Cool. I mean, it's just a great note app taking,
It's free.
It's free, and it's natively building in with AI at the same time. 3-man team too, same thing. Small team. Cursor 4-man team, Obsidian 3-man team. You can build great things with small teams. 5.5 GPT via Codex beat an Amazon customer associate in real time. I asked it to get me a refund and watch it navigate the settings, cancel subscription.
I have done this. I have done this back before. Okay, so I had Microsoft push an update. It ruined my PIN, so I couldn't log into Windows. So I eventually got into Windows, and my Windows wasn't activated right. There was a bunch of stuff going on, and I could not. I had Claude try to diagnose everything. We tried a bunch of different stuff, didn't work out too good, and then it was like, I think you need to call support. And then Microsoft support has gotten super crappy, by the way. Like, getting to talk to anyone is very difficult. And so Claude just figured it out, how to get a hold of them. It took like 10 minutes to get somebody on a chat, and then chatted with the guy, and then set up a remote session with the guy. I was watching the whole time, obviously. And then, just and just did the whole interaction itself and got my Windows reactivated.
Wow.
It was awesome.
These are the kind of meaningless tasks people want to stick it on.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, don't waste my time with that. My precious brain power should not be spent battling your various screens of cancellation. Claude Opus. Yeah, okay, great. It's a think piece. Huge news from Cursor. Yep, we just talked about that. We're going to go take a look at that probably after this call and into next week. Oh, man. Red teaming.
So we're at hour 20. Do you want to keep going? Because
we'll get 12 more minutes. I guess this is the news of the day. There's not anything.
Yeah. It's luckily we're kind of in a little bit of a slow. Actually, that's not true. There's some big stuff happening. Actually.
Well, a lot of this stuff is.
I do want to talk a little bit while you're scrolling, see if there's anything else we want to talk about. I do want to talk about that. I think we already covered it a little bit, but there was it was in Gateway Pundit and a couple other news sources reporting this one lady basically same problem we talked about in the beginning, but it basically just deleted their whole database and everything else like that. And just a note for everybody: first of all, your agent should not have access to production. Like, let's go, come on, people. Like, And it looks like, and again, if there is a rule that the agent has to follow,
Here we
it
go.
needs to be in your harness that, and you just stop it from doing it. Don't put it in a prompt file or an agent's MD file and expect to follow directions, because again, it can just choose not to. You have to enforce it same way that we enforce permissions in an enterprise. I don't want Joe Smo from accounting reading the CEO's email, right? He doesn't have permission to do that. Your agent should be treated the same way. Like, my agents don't have permission to production. Like, it's just bad idea.
Yeah. Well, did you read the whole piece? This is what he's saying.
Yeah.
What
Oh yeah.
The agent was working on a routine task in our staging environment. It encountered a credential mismatch and decided on its own initiative to fix the problem by deleting a railway volume. To execute the deletion, the agent went looking for an API token. It found one in a file completely unrelated to the task it was working with. However, before we go any further, this is the boldest statement here.
Yeah.
Bill, this is to your point. Don't allow it access to production keys ever, right? That's just a hard line of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like as much as you want to do it, don't. And that, I mean, or protections or whatever, but this
Also,
is
I don't know a ton about this. I don't know anything about this company, this railway company, but I'm assuming it's kind of like
here's
there's
what it is.
out there.
Founder of Pocket
Yeah.
OS, we build software that rental businesses, primarily car rental operators, use to run their entire operations. Reservations, payments, customer management, vehicle tracking, the works. Some of our customers are 5-year subscribers who literally cannot operate their business without us. Yesterday afternoon, AI coding agent Cursor, running Anthropic's flagship 4.6 Opus, deleted our production database and all volume level backups in a single API call to Railway, our infrastructure provider. So, back to what the comment is, the token that had been created for one purpose, to add and remove custom domains via the Railway CLI for our services. We had no idea. And Railway's token creation flow gave us no warning.
Ooh.
And the same token had blanket authority across the Railway graph QL API, including destructive operations like volume delete. Had we known a CLI token created for routine domain operations could also delete production volumes, we would have never stored it. Okay, I mean, they just didn't know, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
This
They're
was
like,
the
I create this token. But you know what? There's got to be permissioning on the token too. So when
well,
they
the agent ran this command, right? Curl xpost, and then authorize bearer token, volume delete. No confirmation step, no type delete to confirm. No, this volume contains production data. Are you sure? No environmental scoping,
that's
nothing.
a,
The
yeah,
volume was deleted because Railway stores volume level backups in the same volume, a fact buried in their own documentation that says wiping and volume deletes all backups. Those went with it. Our most recent recoverable backup was 3 months old. Yikes. Within 10 minutes, I had notified Railway CEO and their head of solutions. Jake replied, "Oh my, that's 1000% should have been possible. We have evals for this." It's now 30 hours since deletion. Railway still cannot tell me whether infrastructure level recovery is possible. Yikes. Hey, when you're running AI, these are problems that can come up
yeah.
when you're figuring things out for the first time, right? And you're finding out. Agent's confession. Why did it do it? I don't really care.
Probably because in their file they sweared at it. Remember, guys, when they
Whatever it is,
like, no,
you know,
it's saying one of its commands was never effing guess.
yeah. I mean, listen, this is probably an LLM output. Like, it's not a
Yeah.
real person.
Yeah, that's what the agent responded when they asked him why it did it.
I don't want to read it again. I'm not going to read it at all. The agent itself enumerates safety rules were given and admits violating. Yeah, because
Yep.
it's not a
Yep.
real
That's
person.
the most important line. That one should be highlighted as
Yeah,
well.
it's not a real person. It has no interest in following rules. The
Yeah.
system rules the agent refers are consistent with Cursor's documented system prompt language and our project rules for the code base. Both safeguards failed simultaneously. I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's see why. Before I get into Cursor's marketing versus reality, one thing needs to be clear up front. We're not running a discount setup. The agent that made this call was Cursor running Anthropic's Cloud Opus 4.6, the flagship model, the most capable model in the industry, the most expensive tier, not Composer, not Cursor's small, fast variant, not the cost optimized auto routed model, the flagship.
It seems like the company's pushing back on this wasn't our fault, and it
Well,
was.
I mean, let's read it. Let's find
Taking
out
over
what.
here, they're
Let's
trying to shift blame to everybody else.
let's find out, right? That there's a reason why they wrote this postmortem. So they want to counter easy arguments from AI vendors. Well, you should have used a better model. Well, we did. Running the best model the industry sells, configured with explicit safety rules in our project config, integrated through Cursor, the most marketed AI coding tool in the category.
That's true.
Setup was, by any reasonable measure, exactly what these vendors tell developers to do, and it deleted our production data anyway. Now, Cursor's public safety claims. Their docs describe destructive guardrails that can stop shell executions or tool calls that could alter or destroy production environments. Their best practices block emphasizes human approval for privileged operations. Plan mode is marketed as restricting agents to read only ops until approval is granted. This is not the first time Cursor safety has failed catastrophically. December 2025, Cursor team member publicly acknowledged a critical bug in plan mode constraint enforcement after an agent deleted. I mean, you're just pulling out like what Cursor did wrong in the past. Okay.
Yeah.
Pattern's clear. Cursor markets safety. The reality is documented track record of agents violating those safeguards.
Paddy, I'll be
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes the company itself acknowledging failures. Yep. Okay. In our case, the agent didn't satisfy safety and explained in writing exactly which safety rule ignored. Okay. Again, it's a non-deterministic model.
Yeah.
I don't know why folks think that these are like hard and
And,
fast rules.
and here's the thing. Here's the thing on the railway. It's the same thing in Azure. If you're using the CLI or you're using the automation tools provided on those platforms, you're explicitly signing up to.
Yeah.
My account has permissions. I can do these things. Like there is no
If you
prompt.
gave a monkey a
You
machine
can't
gun,
are
can
you
you
sure you want to
complain
complete this in
about
the
getting
middle
shot?
of the script? What?
I said, if you gave a monkey a machine gun, can you complain about getting shot?
No. And this right here, where they're saying it doesn't even ask if you want to delete it, it's because you're using the API to do automation. It can't. There's not supposed to
Yeah.
be a human in the loop in this scenario.
There's
It's
no
I'm
rate
running a
limit
script.
or
Yeah.
destructive operation cooldown. Again, those are stylistic coding changes that the railway team can or cannot implement. They don't have to.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't want that. I wouldn't want them to do that. If I'm hitting this API and I'm doing work, this is automated work that I'm doing.
no matter what, like I want to be clear. I feel for anybody losing production data, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's supposed to do their job.
for sure.
Talking about who did what wrong, I mean, we're in a bleeding edge technology, leveraging AI in production. Is you're going to find these missing gaps. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And there are, railways volume backups are stored in the same volume. Yeah, I mean, there's probably architectural decisions that maybe railway could have made a change. Um,
I
I
would
don't know.
argue again. I would argue no. I would argue that tool did exactly what it was supposed to do. You
Yeah, I mean,
can't.
listen, I don't know the tool well enough to speak to it. I mean,
Yeah.
could there be, learnings from this? Maybe railway changes the way things are architected moving forward. I don't know. Or just like you're saying, maybe that's the intended design and it's just the
Yeah.
way it is. CLI tokens have blanket permissions across environments.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That would definitely goes the railway on that.
yeah.
Like
Tokens are not scope operation by
if
environment. Or
you go to
environment.
GitHub and you create what it's called a personal access token, you can assign that personal access token certain permissions.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you
if
should
it's
want to have
you
RBAC.
have access, now you could do everything. That's crazy token.
Yeah, God bless them. Some people just want root. Some people just want give me admin. Let's roll. So understand. I'm actively promoting mcprailway.com. I mean, they're a business just like anybody else. They're trying to roll out, their MCP server. 30 hours later, no recovery answer. I mean, if I'm the CEO, I'm calling my PR team to see how do we discuss this publicly, right? Like, I don't want folks thinking they can't trust us, but there needs to be a conversation around, responsibility and how, you know, people are working together to debug it. I think he's kind of like blame game. Like I don't know like the whole detail around this, right? my hope would be that if you've got a vendor, you really should be looking at them as an outsourced partner and a team you can count on to try to drive towards what the solution is. But nobody needs to play a blame game here. I think railway can totally be in communication, but we don't need to harp on there's no PR answer yet, and here's who to blame. But I get it. I get people are upset. Their business is down. They've lost production data, and then the impact, right? Rental
Yeah,
businesses,
huge
they,
cost.
they use our software to manage reses. The morning, Saturday, those businesses have customers physically arriving at their locations to pick up vehicles. New customer signups gone. I mean, listen, you gotta have a
Oh,
playbook.
go to that next paragraph. I love this one. Okay, so here's the irony of the situation, right?
I have to spend the
Know who
entire
would have done this job perfectly? AI.
day. Yeah. Well, to this point, right? Like, what was your disaster recovery for your business?
Yeah,
Well, like,
yeah,
obviously, nobody's happy that we're here, but sometimes you got to
yeah,
just
yeah,
pull up
yeah,
your bootstraps and get
yeah.
going.
I would
I
have
don't
turned
want to
around
be
and
here.
stuck my agent on doing that work. I
And I
sure
listen. I've been there, right? You've been there, Bill. Like, we've got to just dig in and get it done when
would. Yeah,
the automated way doesn't work. Um, yeah,
yeah,
not listen. 9-second API call. I would dare say, like, I'm glad the robots are working so effectively. 9 seconds, great.
You know, also this highlights another thing that the companies can do. Okay, so it is not bad practice. In fact, I would recommend it. So their backups and storage volumes were on Railway. I would also say another things companies could do is get those backups somewhere else too. Like just put this. It's an automated process. You just
Listen,
copy them over to Azure
who
Cold,
knows why? There could
whatever.
be
Yeah,
constraints. It could be, you know, monetary constraints. It could be architectural decisions. I
yeah,
won't dive into why Railway did what they did, but here is what the client is claiming needs to change. The
yeah.
destructive operations must require confirmation that cannot autocomplete by
Disagree.
agent.
Disagree.
Disagree because they're using the API, and that's the whole value
Yeah,
of using an API
yeah.
is that you can do this. So I agree. Don't know if that's the one. Um, yeah, I agree. And yeah, long story short, API tokens must be
Hold
scoped.
on, hold on. Let's back up one more thing and say I want to make one more comment about that particular one. Okay, let's just say that it did do some type of prompting or whatever for this destructive operation. So they're mentioning SMS, email, anything, whatever. Um, Typically, if I'm on Windows, I could just type, Deltree and just delete everything on my C drive. Like that is something you could do, and you
Yeah,
get this prompt where you just answer yes, right? And that wouldn't have solved the problem either. But they are specifically mentioned SMS
yeah,
and
but that
email.
runs into my latency, man.
Yeah,
I want it to delete
yeah,
in 9 seconds. I don't want to ask the question, do I want to delete? And 9 seconds later it happens, you know?
yeah. And number two, yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I agree. They should not have done root,
That's
advertise everywhere, but I
awesome.
get it. I get it, right? I don't know the maturity of railway, but I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely, button that up when you guys can. Next sprint. Everything's only a sprint away. Um, Volume backups cannot live in the same volume. Yeah, that's what kind of we were saying. Again, I don't know why.
Yeah,
Decision internally. I think
yeah.
folks
It's, it's,
internally
it's
have
like
to answer
it's
to
like
that.
when you think deeply on DR, right? Disaster recovery and stuff like that. Like if you're fully dependent on Microsoft, I'm going to set up in multiple.
Yeah,
and,
it's so true.
and just in case the West Coast
Or
gets nuked or whatever, I can then switch over and use all my stuff in the East Coast.
listen, God bless people that
Yeah,
think that way. All right, disaster recoveries and business continuity are not top of mind for most folks.
yeah,
Recovery SLAs need to exist and be published. Hey, again,
yeah. I kind of disagree with this one too because
yeah.
you know what this is definitely a you problem and not a railway problem.
I
Like
think this was a
it,
question that you
I understand
asked when you
it's
onboard
important
the vendor.
to you, but just because you have a fire doesn't make it a fire for me.
No, but like I think this is a question you ask when you onboard vendors, right?
Yeah,
Like you
for
say,
sure.
what does this time look like? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
after the fact, I don't know. AI agent vendor prompts cannot be the only safety layer. Yeah, I agree. You know,
Agentic harness. Yeah.
have a harness.
Yeah.
do something.
Yep.
Let's see. The enforcement layer should live at the integrations themselves, at
Yeah.
API gateway and the token system and destructive op handlers. Yes, I listen, I agree, but is
Yeah.
that gonna get built by everybody in the industry? Probably not. So, it's up to you to implement your own guardrails, and having a harness is probably gonna be the best solution for that. We restored from a 3-month-old backup. There's significant data gaps. They're rebuilding what they can from Stripe. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's the best you can do. I feel for you. I'm sorry that that happened.
Yeah, me too.
Um, Now, I genuinely hope SpaceX doesn't buy Cursor and just builds their own. I mean, listen, it sounds like you had a bad beat with Cursor. The situation sucks. That's
Yeah.
kind of it, I don't know. Good luck. But yeah, okay, great story to read. I
I love
definitely
fun.
think, like you said, I think there was room for folks to make a lot of choices
Yeah,
that people.
a lot of things that failed on this one across the
Yeah.
board.
Cool. Well, I think that's it, Bill. I think we're at an hour and a half plus.
Yeah.
So I've appreciated the conversation today. I think
Yeah, that's good.
we
Oh,
hammered.
you want to mention anything? What were your thoughts on RizeCon? Then we'll close out with that.
Oh, RizeCon, great event up in Idaho. Loved it. I had such a blast. Truly enjoyed getting to meet founders, entrepreneurs, and just got to lay the land about it's nice to walk into a room and God bless Ryan Harris. He's the person putting it all together, him and the team,
Yeah.
um, building RizeCon out. But getting that niche group of individuals in the same room who are at different varying degrees of what success looks like in their business, but all taking the same kind of risks. It was such an awesome experience getting to meet people who are putting it all on the line and want to be successful and really want to run their own business. It's always a risk, no matter what age, what time you do it in your career. Um,
And also on the positive note, it's never the right time, so just do it.
yeah, it's so true. You just have to get out there,
Take
make
the
it
challenge
happen.
as they come. I mean, you're with Soft for a year and a half. I've been doing this for 6 years, and it's been a rough ride. It's been an awesome ride at times. But the challenges are definitely there. And I can see why entrepreneurship isn't everyone's cup of tea. There's a lot
Entrepreneurship
of
is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and I'm blessed that I have the opportunity to do it. Um, it's even more difficult in other countries. When you think about America as the best place to start a business, that's still true.
yeah, it
Uh,
is.
yeah, this was great. RizeCon was awesome. Huge shout out to all the different speakers. Um, we had William McKay as a keynote, CEO of Thanksgiving Point. Wonderful conversation. Loved his whole pitch to the um, whole conference. Definitely got some tearjerker hearing his story and his perseverance through hardship and adversity to get where he's at today. Truly, the tenacity is on display, and it makes you think about even harder about what you can accomplish without having to face the same kind of challenges he did. Um, some other keynote speakers that really stood out for me was like Tony Bell was great. Just really the motivational side of have discipline in yourself. If you're not waking up with a strategy and accomplishing things that you are setting out to do, why will your employees want to follow you? Why will your clients and customers want to buy from you? Right? That was super motivational. Um, and the whole host, great panels across the board, conversations in AI, big push into agentic. How is agentic going to change your business? And overall, loved it. I loved RizeCon. I think absolutely I'll have to go down there next year and the year following. It just was uh, something in the air, It was
Yeah.
beautiful. But
I
Bill,
had too. I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed all the speakers, and I just keep coming back to like I kind of chuckle at it too because like sponsoring happy hour is so on brand for me, like just as a person, it was just great. It was just great to kind of relax with everybody at the conference and meet up with them. And for me, the biggest moment was at the end when you had to leave before the end because you had a bit of driving to do. So Ryan Harris's closing note, where he talked about service and serving and positioning yourself to serve. And I think AI is going to be an amazing enabler for we've done a couple of things where we talked with like AI agents basically to just let doctors be doctors. If you talk to a doctor, there's so much administration around the
Billing
practice,
work, things they've got to do.
getting paid, and they don't spend the majority of their time doing medical doctor things and helping people. They spend the most of their time trying to figure out, how to work with this vendor, how to work with that vendor. And I think AI is going to enable people to serve in better ways, just fundamentally in better ways. Let doctors be doctors and let the agents take care of all that complexity on the back end. I really do. I'm really excited about the future.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bill, it was a pleasure talking with you today.
Yes,
Looking forward to the next time.
yeah.
Have a
All
great
right,
day.
buddy. Bye.
See you. Bye.